This film is not intended to be a history lesson. However, if you wish to understand the origin, the planning, and the implementation of the 9/11 attacks, you must first understand what a false flag event is, the Bush family and their Nazi ties, why John F. Kennedy was murdered, and who stifled that investigation. Let's listen to John F. Kennedy warning us about the 9/11 conspirators and even providing us with an MO. Then we will show malice, forethought, and deliberate planning, prior acts, and means and opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. 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 No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
False flag operations distract and unify people against an invisible enemy in order for the government to push through their hidden agenda. Globalization, control of oil, suspension of civil liberties so they can have more control over you. Fear is their game. Don't be afraid anymore. It's time for liberals, conservatives, independents to join together as Americans and make your voice heard. They want you to be split down the middle. They want you not to agree on issues. They want you distracted. It's time to join together as one. Leading up to the Iraq War, the administration spent months scaring the American public into believing that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction.
We cannot wait for the final proof, the smoking gun, that could come in the form of a mushroom cloud.
Fear, scaring you, the citizen, constantly linking 9/11 and Iraq.
September 11th. September 11th. September 11th. September 11th. September 11th. September.
False flag events are nothing new. They have been documented throughout history, all the way back to Nero burning Rome and blaming the Christians. Operation Northwoods was a false flag planned by U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Lyman Lemonster. Northwoods was nearly identical to 9/11. Northwoods envisioned the use of simulated hijackings, attacks on U.S. cities, military installations. They considered attacking our own ships. Its design was to rally patriotic support for war with Cuba, the plunder of resources, and the expansion of empire and territory. When Northwoods made its way to JFK's desk, he found it so abhorrent, it motivated him to issue orders abolishing the CIA and the Federal Reserve. It also inspired him to write the speech that you just heard. The executive orders he gave regarding the CIA and the Federal Reserve are what got him killed. George H.W. Bush was involved in the cover-up of JFK's murder. If you were paying attention to John F. Kennedy, he identifies the 9/11 conspirators by establishing an MO, means, motive, and opportunity. After issuing the executive orders abolishing the CIA and the Federal Reserve, they further implicate themselves by having him murdered. Although Northwoods was never carried out in the 1960s, it was reborn through 9/11. Later, we will show how the Kennedy speech identifies the 9/11 killers.